Einig efgar slwag shif is camef suas cor. A biarstis vona cruachan baranwas shavarachot. Ayaran agus gualan aluaya glasisor. Amainen guar puanoch anyelan wanyijo.
Einig efgar cruachan camef suas cor. Dunjejen Roman gorskai, vejaštis kruas den vor. Dumbriar kruar boalschen, skaftu alafer doi. Snössasen i verkuado, aelan wanjeljo.
Well, it used to be 30,000, wasn't it?
30,000
Working in shipyards.
Last 15
Now you're
years.
down to
That's 50 years
8,000.
ago. You did about 8,000 just.
If you're lucky, it might be even 6.
There's Lomnitz,
Over
Ballet Curls,
Point House, Ingles.
the Red Lion, Anchor Line. 10, 50 years ago, you could have seen this guy for crayons.
One jump, two jump, jumping in the air. Sing over again. Sing over again.
The future of the young children here, what's in it for them? There is absolutely nothing. The unemployment figures, instead of being 10%, it's up near the 30, because 20,000 people emigrate here from Scotland every year.
In my age group, we've got a future. I mean, we've got approximately 45 years left in us to work. If the UCS closes, we'll spend the majority of that time on the labour exchanges. And this is something that we don't want, to happen to the youth, because it's our future we're talking about here.
In 1971, Scottish shipyard workers declared, "We will fight when we are in the yards and not when we're on the dole queue." Workers all over Britain sustained one of the most important struggles against unemployment, the occupation of 4 shipyards on the Upper Clyde for over a year.
I mean, you take Clyde Bank now. What's Clyde Bank now without John Brown's? Take the yard away from Govan. There's no industry whatsoever in Govan. Well, just let it put it this way. I mean, you take it now, there's a young boy there, he's learning service time. Where could he get another job? He couldn't get a job anywhere else. So you're more or less closing the gate to Scotland. I mean, this is no nation. It's a ghost town.
The threat of closure often hung over the UCS. The Conservative government were prepared to close down traditional sections of British industry in the interest of financed capital and multinational corporations in the common market. Secretary of State for Trade and Industry John Davies picked out the UCS as a prime target.
The government is anxious to try and maintain effective employment in shipbuilding on the Upper Clyde. But I think paying for ships which have not been ordered and are not wanted is unrealistic and has no promise for the future at all. So that, as I say, I think that our minds are very much focused on this thought of keeping what is long-term keepable, virtually. Wrong to confuse this with what you were just now, and that is the maintenance of 4 yards in operation, which the government, quite frankly, has had no evidence to believe will be a sustainable operation.
In 1968, a Labour government had rejected nationalisation in favour of subsidising the amalgamation of the 5 yards to form Upper Clyde Shipbuilders, UCS. They took 48% of the shares. The old yard owners not only received compensation, but continued to dominate the new board with traditional authoritarian mismanagement.
My grandfather dropped dead at that yard gate before the First World War. I mean, that's just how long John Brown's has been going. You know, you're waiting, it's away before that. It's away years ago when there was, they were really making the boats then, you know, and had plenty of work. After the Depression, then the war came, and maybe after the war and things like that there. Well, I think a few of the millions that they made then should have been ploughed back into, shouldn't it? I mean, instead of lining their pockets and...
In December 1969, when the Conservative Party was in opposition, Nicholas Ridley, Tory spokesman on shipbuilding, prepared a secret report on the UCS. The report advocated a hiving off policy, proposing the separation of Sir Eric Yarrow's naval yard, followed by what he called the butchering of the other 4 yards. Six years later, we find Mr. Ridley in the right-wing National Association for Freedom. It was this plan that the Conservatives, back in office by 1970, put into operation at the beginning of 71. Yarrow's naval yard left the UCS with a loan from the Ministry of Defence, and the government announced that they had no interest in supporting the remaining 4 yards, causing panic among suppliers and creditors. Meanwhile, the Japanese yard owners secure 60% of world orders. So does this not ring out a warning with what's happening to British Leyland in 76, 77? In the car industry, it's General Motors and Ford who increased their share of the market.
The UCS was promised, and they never got it. They asked for 6 million and didn't get it. The government saw fit that 6 million wasn't enough. Now they were prepared to pay millions in redundancy, national assistance,
so that they would have a glut of workmen available for a few of the yards, Scott Lithcos and Greenock and Yarrows.
And to my way, I think every one of them have benefited out of this butchering. Yarrows has been modernised. Lithcos getting all kinds of fancy orders.
Yarrows could come in and out like a yo-yo, whichever suited the best.
Whenever he went out, he took something like £85 million orders. They were never given back to the UCS.
We're hoping for the day to come when work will be available for the labour. That meaning that, what I mean by that is to say that it shouldn't
be more jobs for the men.
It shouldn't be men to be available for the jobs. It should be that the jobs will be available for the men to keep them in continuity of work.
Point, brothers, that the Joint Coordinating Committee are issuing a statement thanking the workers and the representatives in Scotland for the magnificent show of solidarity. It's the finest post-war demonstration of the working class. In fact, it's the biggest demonstration in Glasgow since General Strike 1926.
We have not going to retreat another inch. Not 1 inch, not one job, not anything. We've done everything, flexibility, we've tried everything bar dinner time bingo to save this industry. And enough is enough. And I think my comrades will agree that every man that's working in a UCS will be working in a UCS when this position is resolved. That is our point of view, and we're sticking to that.
At the end of July, the Tory government announced the closure of 2 of the 4 yards. 6,000 men were to lose their jobs, and the remaining 2,500 at the Govan and Linthouse yards would be working a double day shift. The day after this announcement in Parliament, the workers from all 4 yards took action.
The shop stewards representing the workers are in control of this yard. Nobody and nothing will come in, and nothing will go out without our permission. The gateman is there. We'll take the decisions with your endorsement that determines what comes in or out this yard.
Right, brothers, is there anyone against? Carried unanimously.
If he's going to go ahead with it, he better bring his fish back to the bad stage. They need him the bloody Clyde stage.
You're responsible for what comes out, what comes in, who comes in and who goes out. The easiest things we've got to stand by.
That's right.
Once you deviate for these things, then you're lost.
Plus people coming in the yard, the lights, you know.
That's correct. You've got to watch the press, photographers, for these press statements in the morning, crews coming in along with them, credentials shown, identify themselves before they're allowed down the yard.
I love the steward that comes on and gets these instructions anyway, John.
That's good. As long as you keep enforcing instruction to the stewards when they come on. Now, there's another rush to
I told them more cars, lorries, coming in and getting out.
Yeah.
Especially getting out. No, we must check what's going to happen.
And we've got a plater on the planning committee, and we've got a plater who works on the shop floor. And they keep a record of what's coming from Linthouse into Clyde Bank. We get a list of all these things, and he gives us a clearing signal. We also check it at the gate here before it finally goes out. That's the way it's a double check all the time.
So nothing gets you without the OK of the coordinating committee. Even stewards coming down for a coordinating committee.
They've got to be
Don't know the
identified.
steward's face, they must produce his credentials.
Yes.
This ship was built in the Scots Division, been launched in the Scots Division. It's been docked here. We have the assurance from the Tuckmen's Union that they will not move any ship to any port without the authority of the Coordinating Committee. And it is on the complete control of the stewards. The ship will not be moved without the authority of the Coordinating Committee.
The details then, what you have to meet and who you have to meet, etc.
They set up an organisational structure. In many ways it was unique. Out of the Joint Shop Stewards Committee, we set up a coordinating committee which covered the 4 yards. Now, arising from the daily coordinating meeting, there was a daily meeting of shop stewards in each division to report back the decisions and the activities, completely democratic means of communication.
Centre his cause, you know, and he may have got permission then to start, but we'll make inquiries into it, John. It's no bother.
It's strange that they're collecting over there and they're not collecting here.
Communicate, you can't communicate too long, because if you don't communicate, then the establishment is communicating either through the press or the television. You may say involved in the struggle that you're busy and you can't afford the time. I'm saying you can't afford not to have the time, and this is one of the lessons we learned. The coordinating committee devise a strategy, tactics, take decisions, and then from the Joint Shop Stewards report back to the workers.
All workers.
More or less intimated to me on the phone that this in fact closed the door as far as Archie Kelly was concerned. I said, well, as far as we were concerned, that was our attitude.
Again, that was so that's the first point.
John Chalmers phoned yesterday. If we wanted to send speakers down there, if they contact the Boilermaker's office in Newcastle, he's going on holiday himself, but if they contact the Boilermaker's office in Newcastle, we've been mainly concerned about getting the solidarity movement off the ground, make the maximum impact and all the rest of it. But we've got to find and preserve the means of communication very regularly with the lads in the yards. And I'm suggesting here that we have a mass meeting, we'll have mass meetings on Monday. But more than that, there's a number of lads who are prepared to work, offer their services, journalistically that is. And we've got at our disposal duplicators now. And I think we should decide that maybe once or twice a week we have the UCS View or something like that, in addition to mass meeting. So that twice a week they've got this constant channel of communications between the shop stewards and the people in the yards. I think this would be important.
Now, you're saying we're journalistic, friend, that we might need to decide on someone within their own ranks. I agree with you, because if you leave a couple of days even, the workers are not getting information, then you can have a kind of situation arise.
I can agree, John, because as he says, it's going to be a real problem because we've had no communication with our departments because they're beginning to feel that we're doing nothing and we're getting away from them. There are 400 in our department.
I accept that. No, but on that point, it would still be in the form of the newsletter, and it would need to be somebody's responsibility to compile that. And quite frankly, we've got to face the problems here. I think it's got to be done. It'll be a large task for MD to undertake. I think it's got to be done. We've got to decide.
Let's start it. Fortnight every month.
I think it's got to be a mass meeting every week. They followed, possibly the Tuesday, Jimmy said. No, wait a minute. And possibly a newsletter around about the Thursday.
Well, can I go over a newsletter on the basis of agree? Not only mass meetings on Monday, but every department on Wednesdays of each week, would be in receipt of a note. Each steward would get the same piece of information, which he would grant and read it at his mass meeting at his own department.
Along with that, because once you get involved in departmental meetings, where people will not pose a question or say something at a mass meeting, you'll get it a hell of a lot easier at a departmental meeting, and in my opinion it could cause fragmentation. So from that point of view...
Well, just let him finish it out. Jerry did say that he was for the weekly mass meeting.
I'm all for departmental meetings when we're discussing any situation that's confronting that department. But with the campaign and the struggle within the UCS should be only spoken at mass meetings of all workers.
Now here's the position in redundancy payments. You sign an RP 21, but this is not a normal situation. You're in the hands of a government liquidator. And we'll get copies of these RB21s, you can fill them in and sign them. But if you look at the Handley page, it took them 18 months to get the redundancy payments. And therefore the argument about redundancy payments becomes a bit academic, because in that time we will have won this fight. You can fill them in, send them in, but the important thing is that your books are located in these yards, and you agree that we are going to fight for our job and our basic elemental right to work.
Group of men getting together, wasn't it? It was a committee was formed of shop stewards, and I believe it was a gathering of thoughts. People getting together and thinking.
The timing, the liquidation, people going on a holiday with that in their mind. I mean, Browns were just ready to come back when we were going on holiday. And all the people, like the upper reaches here, they were going on holiday. They didn't know if they had a job or anything to come back to. Nobody knew what was happening. I mean, the timing, I thought, was definitely a knife in the back to start with.
Here we are, the government's shutting us down. We're finished, we're ready to die.
sheer desperation for a successful tactic. We go through everything else we've tried before and seen that it's not really worked. And it's out of desperation. This is what was born the worker.
She's not worried about tax problems, insurance card problems.
All these things crossed all our minds, I suppose, but the main thing was to save the 4 yards. That was the main thing, and all these wee niggly things could be settled and sorted out once the 4 yards was saved. I think that was the main attitude that was taken.
The whole thing was, we kept everybody together, with one body, one unit. And if we lifted our boots as we should have, we went on the brew, well, the fight would have been finished. But we was staying and working, we all together, and we were in contact with each other. And we could converse every day with each other, we know what's happening.
Well, that's obvious. We would never have been open. We'd been shut. The lot would have been shut. Hey, I know for one thing, I wouldn't have been working. I would have been unemployed. The same as the rest of the 9,000 that's in here. We'd all been unemployed. We had to make some stand, and this was a stand, and I made the shop should have done a good job, I think, because they come up with this. We always kept this threat, a complete worker control in the background. Brought it a wee bit forward whenever they wanted to push the management, but I don't think they actually pushed it to the limit.
We were fighting for their job too. Without the workers and management, there's no management, you know. It's simple as that.
Like Connell and that.
I tell you, we don't need a gaffer if we're not here.
So we never really had complete workers control, you know.
Everyone's fight, not a staff fight, not a management fight, but a fight for the people of Scotland. Now you may well ask what the executives of the trade unions are doing. The executives are standing back because it would be impossible for them to do a job such as the shopkeepers are doing. And if they were invited into this, we would find us though we have 28 rule books jammed down our throats and the fight lost forever.
I mean, you can't build ships without material. If there's anything to do with the workers, they will see that supplies are maintained.
What would our position be relative to the law? And we said, we're more interested in morality than legality. And if it's illegal to fight for the basic right to work, then it's time the laws of this country were changed. And you get tied up in the point of our ways about supplies. Really, I wouldn't get into that too much. Because the workers are up on Clyde. And not win this in isolation. It's got to be the movement that comes out in support. Given that situation, then we can shake this government because there'll be two ways here. You either fight with a chance of victory. Even if you get defeated, you fought your feet. If you don't fight, then you just walk on to that labour exchange regime. And incidentally, ask anyone that's on it, there's no jobs for nobody. That's the position. You have no alternative to fight, and that's the position of the Joint Shopkeepers Committee.
Well, that's very nice.
Cheerio.
Cheerio. Cheerio, boys. Cheerio. Oh, here you are, boys. Cheerio.
Well, we did meet Mr. Davis today in the City Chambers in Glasgow, and it was what we expected. We asked to give us guarantees as regards the future of the UCS workers and the UCS itself. He could not do this, so we all got up and we walked out the chambers in disgust. And that is the situation up to the now.
We sat for hours, mind you, discussing it, but we weren't prepared to go on indefinitely. And at a certain stage indicated this and walked out.
What will you tell the workers now?
Yeah.
To work on?
Oh, to work on. We will continue our work in. Yes.
The shipyard workers in the lower reaches of the Clyde were the first to offer financial support.
the first point in developing a mass movement is catch the media, and you've got to be bold. We were not afraid of the television and all the rest. They'll always try to misinterpret what you say, but it's your job that you don't allow that to happen. And once you catch the media, you begin to put the working class politics, into that media. And the press is obliged to come to us. We call the press conference.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
Have you heard yet of any redundancies at all within the group?
No, not at the moment.
What happens when the notices come out?
Our instructions is that we ignore it, we don't accept it, and we're also instructing the clerical staff not to cooperate with the issuing these redundancy notices. Yes, because they are party to decisions of the mass meeting of the workers.
Will it then, if you have them working, what is their position about insurance?
We've got contingency plans to cover all situations that are likely. From shop stewards committees that will be at the meeting tomorrow, there will be discussion of how best to support the workers in UCS. It may be some form of demonstrative action. The international support, from the French unions, from Denmark, Norway, etc. Australia, New Zealand, Canada. If we get the United States, then we've tied it up internationally. Okay.
Your team going overseas to John this afternoon. What time are they expecting back? Are there any plans of coming back tonight?
11:30 plane back.
We're not talking in terms of the economic and social arguments of the Scottish community. So we'll talk to Sir John Egan along these lines and hope for a satisfactory conclusion.
The next press conference will be after tomorrow's meeting. Okay, gentlemen, we'll now close the press conference.
The likes of these ones, as a member, it's not really heat. He's only the spokesman for the people behind the power behind the government, which is very strong, financiers and what have you. Well, we know that, but as I say, they leave most of it to us, and at times we just get stuck for an idea, you know. Aye, that's right. We asked them for slogans, but the shop stewards didn't originally want to make it too political. They didn't want to make too much on the political side. But now it's become more serious. We're going to be political about it.
I would like to welcome you to this meeting on behalf of the UCS Joint Shop Stewards Committee.
We gave them interchangeability, flexibility, mobility. We sat on production committees that at one time the trade unionists would never agree to sit in on. So does this not ring out a warning? Because if this is going to be the attitude towards it, then there's not going to be any cooperation from any part of the working class.
Before the general election, the government had a predetermined policy. We know, because we have now access to all the agreements and books and all the rest of it, and to the experts in management and so on. We know that Davis's argument that we had a thin order book is not only erroneous, but a lie. The company were on the brink of signing orders for £120 million worth of vessels that would have given us an order book taking us to the end of 74 and the beginning of 75, which were cancelled. We are asking you to demonstrate beyond all shadow of doubt where you stand. You and your workers stand and your organisation stand by giving the most visible, physical demonstration.
And we will fight to involve
20 to 30,000 Dundee workers in action on that day. The UCS workers will only be successful if they are supported by the whole Scottish people.
And we say this quite clearly from Liverpool, that we will go back and win the massive support that we know the trade unionists feel for the UCS workers.
It's not good enough to talk, we want action, and we want action now. And therefore, based on that, I'll say that the miners in Scotland will be standing side by side with you in this very important struggle. I thank you.
There are no tugs going to be used in this river to shift any ships in any of the yards down to Liverpool and the Continental.
Tomorrow morning, I speak at 7 o'clock to 200 dockers. I have spoke to building trade workers. Other shop stewards have been active. And this is the point. Get back to your shipyards and factories tomorrow. You've just got no idea how enthusiastic the people are to help the UCS lads. Because they realise if the UCS boys get beat, then every one of us get beat in the near and distant future.
You get indications of financial support, levy weekly if possible, and it's our responsibility to see that this is the biggest demonstration that this country's ever seen in the fight against unemployment. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Whisper.
Went back to Clyde the day. The Chiners and Hodders on their marching for Clyde Bank. Come on, down and see him, he'll be your strength to bite. Come on, Jock and Jimmy, lead the clans and the local young please. Great John McLean, coming into the Clyde. Argyle Street in London Road, the road that for marching. The lads play the Brimaloft, they'll pay say a man. And he'll where's your hodrum? Give back heel and shifter, get your pipes made and march at the head of the class. Hello, and Maloney, and you'd be here, son. The red and the green lad will wear side by side for the Gorbals and Cincinnati and Glasgow belongs to him. Great John McLean coming into the Clyde.
It's finished. Everything. You know, while they're working, we are sweeping up, general cleaning. I leave my home at
6:10 in the morning. And I've got another way in Castlemilk. 16 miles anyway from here. If I didn't need the money, I wouldn't get up at 6 in the morning. And I've got nothing else for it. This last year, both men and women never knew it was going to happen. Not right. This place has had its hard days. Well, I would rather have seen it get nationalised. You don't live in your laurels off the past. You step forward. You don't go bloody backwards.
I've just been notified that I've been paid off. As regards that notice, I'm disregarding it. I'll be reporting to work as usual on Monday morning at 10 minutes to 8.
Jimmy Kirkpatrick, AUEW Technical and Supervisory Staff. This is what I got through the post this morning. Termination of employment, finishing Friday, no week's notice, finished. I'm also a member of the coordinating committee of the UCS, and I am not in the least despondent. In fact, if anything, I'm more determined than ever that this fight's got to be won. And I'm sure that my colleagues inside and outside of this movement will not let us down. Of this I am convinced.
We are being provided with money to keep us going from the Shop Stewards Fighting Fund. But all join us on the working for the last 8 months, and we do work which doesn't help production.
Well, you know, I don't believe that anyone can or should condemn any action the men of UCS take within the law. Who is going to condemn? It will be different, of course, if any action were taken outside the law. Well, I am trusting that Mr. Davies will read the reports of my visit, and then...
Apart from your hope that Mr. Davis will read what we have to write tonight, about your proposals for
pre-production orders.
Pre-production orders.
Well, I don't think it's necessary for me to write to him or go to see him, but I'm not really concerned with procedures. Let's get back to normal working and normal entry into and exit from the...
You can't avoid the noise. It's actuality. Yeah, okay. 2, take 1. Okay. 2, take 1. Mr. Ben, what's your reply to the allegations that the fault of UCS lies at your door alone? If I had done what the present government has done in 67, there would have been no shipbuilding on Upper Clyde today. Our record on this stands for people to judge themselves. I came up when things were difficult and we had to have some redundancies 2 years ago. I came to talk to the people myself. Mr. Davis has not had the courage to come and talk to the men. All right. What other things have you done today with the liquidator? Because I haven't, of course, heard
the liquidator said that the 400 would be paid off immediately and that the Clyde Bank, the division here, would shut next March. That's all he announced this morning.
My movements after this are, I'm going to the town council offices when I've been round the yard, and then I'm going to the SQC at 4 o'clock. And I think after that there might be something to say.
So you might say something after
the SQC.
And we'll probably see you up there.
You know who these other people are? I can vouch for him. Oh, that's right. Actually, vouching for me. Yeah.
This is Swedish television. What are your proposals for the future of UCS?
Well, first of all, that there should be a stop to all redundancies immediately. And then there should be the establishment of a Clydeside Development Authority, which would have the job, as its first job, of looking into the affairs of this yard, searching out for new orders and developing this yard and its potentiality. And we shall be putting these proposals very quickly now to the Prime Minister and the Secretary of State for the Department of Trade and Industry. That's for the information of people in Sweden, our Mr. Heath and our Mr. Davis.
One gets the impression that you're sitting like a big sponge and ideas are coming at you and nothing's coming back. It seems that everybody is anxious to try and find a way out of it, except the government, who are sitting there, who are absorbing all the ideas that are thrown at them.
Do you think you have a chance to...
Otherwise we wouldn't be doing it. We must always give them this opportunity.
Could I ask...
Yes. No, I've finished now. Thank you. Sorry. Right.
Jimmy.
Jimmy. Hello. All right?
Mr. Feller, you're from the BBC. Could I see you when you come out?
Sure.
Thanks.
As you wish. I'm here just to do anything.
The conference room.
Fellow Chairman, fellow delegates, I make no apology. I'm also going to deal with the UCS. And I think that we should be discussing a perspective to take the movement forward, not be conducting a post-mortem. Some people are putting the interpretation that what we see here is workers' control. I'm for workers' control, but I don't believe you can have workers' control in the present day type of society. Change society, then we'll have workers' control, and the whole talents of men and women will flower. What is happening in the Upper Clyde? It's a group of workers that, as Jimmy Reid said, are demanding their inalienable democratic right, the right to work. A group of workers that are not going to grovel, tugging their forelocks onto the labour exchange. A group of workers that will no longer tolerate their children leaving the playgrounds to go into the dole. That's what's historic, and that's what's significant about the stand the workers in UCS has taken. And why is it historical? Because it's winnable. And defeat is unthinkable, but victory opens up new perspective. What has happened in the past? A conference was called by trade union officials, the employers, the Department of the Trade and Industry, and the workers were outside waiting to know their fate. Here you have a group of workers that are saying, we are not leaving our place of employment, and if you want a discussion, come into the yards and talk to us. That's what's significant, and that's what's historic. Incidentally, I'm not making that a criticism of officialdom, and I welcome the report of the General Council. I welcome the point put with Vic Feather about the Clyde development. But can I say, there is one missing ingredient in these reports, and that is mobilising the masses, because if you've not got that, then you'll get nowhere with this government. They're only respective to the mass movement when it's moving. I want to close on this note, Chairman, that there's one call that has got to be made, that this conference is making an appeal to men and women up and down this country. This far and no further retreat, no jobs gone, fight for the jobs, and the whole movement will support you. Given that, and we can be victorious and open up a new perspective. Thank you, Comrade Chairman.
Occupations bright colour printers and Fakenham were inspired by and given financial support from the UCS workers.
This very fact alone, in this little, tiny little rural area here, it's immoral, it's obscene even, to think that somebody can fly over here from Miami Beach or wherever he lives, kick 46 people out on the rubbish dump and get away with it. Why should he be allowed to? We're entitled to our dignity, we're entitled to work if we want to.
We couldn't do it. That was the first thing we heard the Friday night when we came back, the first Friday that we took over.
It's been difficult, and husbands have created problems insofar as they think that women have no part in this, except at the back of the men. I mean, men just have to realise this. The women today just won't sit there and hand them cups of tea or look after the babies, and they will do it, yes, but perhaps as part of something else. The very fact that this is happening here is proof enough that women have a place in this sort of struggle. The occupation, 24-hour thing, in case these people at Norwich decide to send the heavy-handed boys in at night. Right. With women, it's that little bit more difficult. It does entail physical hardship. When you come to sleep in a bunk bed, in a primitive conditions like these, you wake up about 3 o'clock in the morning, you suddenly think, you know, there must be something there worth fighting for.
As far as I know, it's been wee places has been trying it. I mean, there's not been any place as big as the UCS trying it. I think the next big place that tries it will improve on the UCS. Because the UCS started it, they more or less felt their way, and they were successful. I think the next big, they'll take the lesson of the UCS, they'll start the way we left off.
If other people after us may accomplish, you don't know what they can accomplish. But as I say at the very beginning, it's unity between the whole of the country, the whole of the union movement. The financial support was fantastic of the ordinary person, the man in the street, the student, the housewife. Without their contribution to this fight, they've been lost long ago. Really.
We are prepared to spread this fight. As a matter of fact, we are spreading it. Liverpool, Tyneside, Southampton, we've been there.
Revolution is being moved, not simply because there are those who would readily endorse it, but because I believe that it contains the thinking of everybody who recognises that socialism is the answer for the working class today in Britain.
Sure, we would show our solidarity by making an overwhelming collection this week, and of course pledging our moral support, which we've already sent in a telegram. Does that agree, brothers? All right. Plenty of you lads want to make an on-the-spot collection here now, so chip in. Thank you indeed, brothers, from Clyde side for giving us a few words today. Thank you.
The coordinating committee created 5 subcommittees, which included finance, publicity, and the administrative committee.
When we took over, the only facilities we had was the convener's room, so we moved in here. What we have in effect here is Eddie makes up the money out the fighting fund for the lad. Bob keeps a record of the time.
Now, the question's been asked, why have your, workers control? Do you have timekeepers and people like that? And our reply is quite simply that we have a heavy responsibility because the funds that are sustaining us, they're not our funds. We are only the custodians of the UCS Fighting Fund. And the final analysis, that the fund belongs to the movement, and we will ensure the movement that nobody will exploit it. And that is the reason for having this administration, and it's a very responsible job, which the lads are handling in a far better fashion than the company has handled their funds. We have less mistakes and less complaints than what the company has. So I think that we should be doing this all the time. I mean, we took over another office just up the passage a bit. We used that as our mailing office. This phone here, they were instructed to disconnect it, and the GP engineers refused to disconnect this phone. And I could say quite honestly, we've phoned all over the world. And we needed the facilities, and that's why we took them over. When we started off under the same illusion as everybody else was under, that the administrative problems and running a big organisation, which the UCS struggle has been a big organisation, was extremely complex and difficult. Well, everybody that's done the jobs in here had no previous experience. So, I mean, the girls that are working here are draftswomen. Some cases it's been hard work, but it's been exceedingly easy. In fact, I would say it's no half as difficult as working the double bottoms at a ship.
There was mistakes made. The working members, I don't think they got close enough liaison with the rest, with the fellows that were still employed. I think it would have been a good idea to have... No, you couldn't have working shop stewards because you've only got one shop steward, he's for the working and for the employed. But I think it would have been a good idea for working members on listening briefs on committees and various, even right up to the court name.
Well, that's not the right way. We give them advice. We're not slow, but they must know what's going on.
Unless this work comes out, it'll go to war again. So it's up to the men at the end of the day to keep it opened.
That's what I mean with men in upper management taking control, having a finger on the button sort of a thing, so they can come back to the men and keep them.
This may be political, but I think the workers made a case for nationalisation of shipbuilding. Because both governments, Labour and Tory, have spent a hell of a lot of money in the UCS, and you haven't got value for it. You haven't got value for the money spent because of the haphazard way it's been spent, not because the money wasn't needed to be spent. When they talked about modernisation, and Coral got 400,000 to gravel their path. I don't know what they've done with the rest of it. That must have cost them about 30 bob or something. See, there was an awful lot of money wasted with both governments. So you would need to nationalise the shipbuilding industry and spend money right on it.
They hadn't a clue on how to run a shipyard until this man learnt the game and then was able to do it. But the men themselves could have done it better without him. It was only a deadhead. And it's the same in every department, you know, all through shipbuilding. We don't need other people coming in. We do it ourselves.
By October, the planned rundown of the yard had been prevented, and widespread public opposition had been aroused against the policy of closures. Dan McGarvey, president of the Boilermakers Union, stepped in and took over negotiations with the government.
Jack Service and I would meet Mr Davis and Sir Johnny.
Was the Minister optimistic about fires for the other 2 yards?
He was neither optimistic or pessimistic. He was a trivial minister. He's doing his best.
And are there going to be any more redundancies announced?
Well, this we pressed on him that we hope that this would be minimised.
This all sounds, Dan, like very much you're talking on Davies' terms, rather than the people...
I don't know why you should say that, but as I said, we're not inflexible.
Well, yes, as a matter of fact, the Doctor Hills on a lovely day.
Dropping again,
Yes, that's right. No, we're coming.
Yeah.
What do you mean by call?
You had a pre-arranged appointment or...
No, we're coming here and we believe we are going to be meeting them later. Yeah. All right?
Just go.
Yes.
Yes, please. Just a minute, I'm just going to say one word, and that is to draw attention to the fact that this is a record of a meeting, and as you see...
When one gets into the minutiae of this statement, that in fact we're back to the Ridley plan.
Could I say that I have no personal knowledge of the Ridley plan, so that you have to speak for yourself on that subject. I'm concerned with the proposal put forward by the group of experts, which was admittedly covered Government House, to which we have added, by agreement and by the recommendation of Mr Stenhouse, a feasibility study on Scotstoun, to which this statement now adds the proposition of further discussions to see whether we can encourage a purchase of Clydebank. I think that these are the specific things. I don't think I really can add very much to that.
Are we substantially beyond 2,500 workers?
I have absolutely no idea at all. This is a matter for Mr Stenhouse in discussion with Mr McGarvey, not for me.
I know to ask both of you, it's been now about 4 months since we started this exercise. Do you now feel that you've achieved at least a partial success?
Well, certainly for my part, I feel a very real sense of relief, which I think is my principal reaction, because I've been anxious for such a very long time to see started what I think we are setting afoot.
We also accept the position relative to the new group that they can't take Clyde Bank. So running through the document is the assurance from Mr Davis that in cooperation with the unions will do everything possible to get a purchase of a Clyde Bank. It says it in the document in relation to the Local Employment Act and the financial assistance.
Your original formula on the Confederation was that you would not accept any redundancies.
The Minister himself, by means best known to himself, his gentle persuasion, has prevailed upon the liquidator to have as little redundancies as possible during the discussions that's been going on.
He's holding up the redundancies.
Yes. The position is simply that as soon as Mr. McGarvey says, as soon as the ships can be laid down, the immediate problem of redundancies at government, which was the threatening problem, will be removed.
But if we hadn't broke through the whole issue, then we'd have been talking to nobody. Mr. Davis would say, well, there's nothing there.
Mrs. Sellers, are you off the ground, Hugh? We are off the ground. Good. But look, please, I promised that the statement would come out from the Minister.
So you're off the ground, that's
Mr. McGarvey.
You're off the ground.
And I don't think you will be disappointed.
But could you amplify that off the ground, Mr. Stonehouse?
In other words, I believe the statement will allow my chief executive to get on with his job. All right? And by the way, what were the odds tonight?
7 to 1.
7 to 1, man.
On or against?
But being an optimist, we are in the process of getting into business. All right? And if any of you dare to get me out of my bed, you'll bloody well never have another statement out. All right, cheerio, boys. Thanks. Oh, Christ. I think it's
Done delivered.
I don't think you'll be more than 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
I would think,
10 minutes.
Yes, I wouldn't think it'll be any longer. Bye-bye.
Owns something, invests money. He's got power, he's got fantastic power. Government, big industry, everything's all based on it. It's capitalism. The whole lot's capitalism. I've been working and working and working for years and years. People under different circumstances working harder and harder, working for bonuses. And working to get what? You know, eventually nothing at the end of it. The whole creative process that nothing in his lifetime is ever going to equal even a quarter or a fifth or anything else that anyone else is that aren't working for a living. They just get money, contrive to get more money, and the only way they get contrivance is by getting it off the people. Four of us on this whole boat. There's four engineers that have done almost everything in here. You can see the generators. This is the main power for the electricity, for the refrigeration, for everything that runs, including the power to run the main engine. There's pumps all the way right round the bottom, air compressors and air compression bottles. In fact, we'll put in this crane this afternoon as well. This is what the difference between a working man is. He's working for a living, and this is capitalism. The means to make money off other people. There might be something more to life than £6 a week after you've worked for, what, 45 years? 45 years of working, and the conditions may be slightly better now, but not very much better. The equipment are used exactly the same. The labour that you put in, the effort you put in, and what you get out after 45 years, in comparison to what some people are making millions out of, and what they have made millions out of the shipping industry, and they've never put one halfpenny of that back.
We, of course, are pledged to use our best efforts we have all the ingredients. We think that we have a skilled labor force. When we get all through with the construction project, we'll have one of the most modern shipyards ever. And of course, from an offshore drilling standpoint, we have just an excellent market.
It's been a long month of negotiations for you. How do you feel now it's all over?
Oh, just very fine. It's been an atmosphere of...
Marathon Manufacturing Company, the biggest oil rig builders in the world, were brought to Scotland from Texas by Dan McGarvey.
We've gone another step along the way to final settlement. We're purchasing assets. We're purchasing assets.
Can you see the figures?
No. There's a white paper out that must be passed by Parliament that has to do with industrial and regional development. The start of production is geared to when that passes. We're hoping by July 24th.
It's an issue.
Right.
Does it mean that, in fact, there'll be no redundancies?
Redundancies are just not our problem. We're a new employer, but we're going to do everything possible to employ just as many of the people as quickly as we can.
I think the important point here is the declaration of intent that pledges both parties to work for this common objective of continuity and stability of employment for the labour force of the former Clydebank division of the UCS. The important thing is that the declaration of intent adopted by Marathon and ourselves does involve cooperation. We're not idealistic enough to think it will all proceed smoothly. There will be bottlenecks, problems, and together we hope that we can overcome them in a way which maintains the labour force. I believe that that's the spirit of the declaration of intent. May I just also point out that the discussions have been long, but in our opinion, fruitful.
Yeah, thank you very much. Right. I say again. Thank you.
There have to be...
Leadership to engulf them in a campaign against the government. When the UCS came along, then it was a focal point which everyone, irrespective of where they lived in Britain, because all of them had suffered in some way, some aspect of Tory policy. Now, for the basis of that, they seen some focal point in the UCS struggle as saying to the government, enough. People were hungry for something to be able to stand up and say to the government, you have went far enough. And I believe in that basis, we've done that much. But if you are asking us do you believe that the UCS stewards, taking everything into consideration and attempting to become the new leadership of the entire working class in this country, which would result in a demand being made for the removal of the government, this could never be the responsibility of the Shipbuilders Committee. We only utilise, as I said previously, a principle which has been kicking about the working class movement since its inception, that unity of the working class.
The government couldn't go against the opinion of the people.
They can be defeated. The UCS workers and the miners have proved it. We just hope that this isn't the end of a fight against this sort of oppression, as you may call it.
There's going to come a day when it isn't a few at the top who are going to be deciding how millions are going to live. It'll be the millions that will be deciding for themselves. And the jobs and the amount of leisure, etc., will be decided by these millions and not by a few at the top who squeeze the juices out of the workers and live fatly on it themselves.
One of the most remarkable aspects of the struggle. Lads learn the concept that they're involved in politics. Every decision, every economic or financial or social decision that a government takes has politics in it. There's no substitute for struggle, because you learn lessons that all the theory in the world can teach you. Because theory, devoid for practice, is sterile. Same as practice, divorced for theory is sterile.
The amount of demonstrators that's leaving the yard, you felt it as all positions will be fully manned and doubled.
Can we have all of you fighting out of the nation? Let's start a fight of UCS only! Shall die to the land, to the right, to the work! We shall not be moved. We're on our way.
You can be involved in struggle, and you may even win the particular struggle you're involved in. But unless you've got to fight that struggle over again, you've got to recognise the politics.
We shall not.
First of all, you secure working class leaders for working class organisations. The day a petty bourgeois socialists leading this movement through its official quarters of the Labour Party have got to be ended. There will be never no successful outcome to any struggle. It may appear a victory at a point, but the forces reaction that we've got to render them capable of mounting a counter-offensive, and this only can be done, not by individuals, but only by mobilising the rank and file, the ordinary men and women in this country.